I'm really happy that we are starting the third session of our class. And I hope that the third class would be arranged in a kind of good timing in a way that we can finish the class in the next 1 hour and 45 minutes. So that is the plan that we have. And I'm going to cover 7 different sections today. So it's going to be a comprehensive session. So we are going to discuss about 7 major topics today. And we are going to cover almost, as you can see in these 7 topics, these are basically covering almost the entire human brain mapping methodologies. And you can imagine that for each individual of these human brain mapping methodologies, you can have a PhD degree or you can invest your entire life for one of these methodologies. So it's really hard to cover the entire space of human brain mapping methods, but we will try. So we'll try to give you just an overview about the things that we can do and the kind of the activities that could be happening in the field, and at least give you a sense about what are different methodologies that we have and how these methodologies could be helpful for us to study human brain, living human brain. I'm going to start with a question. Let's think that I'm the president of your country, wherever you live across the board. And I'm asking you about, okay, I'm ready to give you enough budget to build up a national brain mapping center. Or you are going to propose a project and convince me that I'm going to give you $10 million to be able to build up a national brain mapping center. How can you justify me to invest that huge amount of money in building up a human brain mapping center in your country? I'm sure, there are many countries that they already have kind of large human brain mapping centers, but let's think that you are going to build up your own brain mapping center and you are going to justify a granting agency to give you money for that. How do you justify me? It is an important thing for the country, the state, the city, the university, that having that human brain mapping kind of center that's going to be helpful. So you're supposed to just write 3 to 8 answers, 3 to 8 sentences in your answer, and then post them in the chat space. I'm going to give you 2 minutes for that. And the reason I'm asking this question is I'm really interested to make sure that you know how these human brain mapping methods are going to be used in a way that are going to be helpful. So they are not just giving you some beautiful pictures that are really exciting to explore, but they are also providing kind of evidence or information or tools that are going to help people. So how human brain mapping methods are going to go beyond just kind of scientific curiosity and beautiful pictures of how brain is working. How we can have brain mapping methods in a way that are going to change the future of human being, or the future of how people are suffering from mental health disorders or different neurological disorders, and how we might be able to provide new interventions or new kind of how that is going to change how people are living in the next decades or centuries. Okay, anybody who's interested to read his or her own answer to that? Okay.
I can share if it's okay for you.
Okay, Nishat, go ahead.
So if you give me $10 million, then I will be able to have a huge data set of our nationality's brain development. Therefore, we can prevent or treat many disorders in the country. Besides, the government can plan future health and psychological plans based on the data set.
Okay, good. Mehran.
If you give me $10 million, then I will be able to help treatment processes in different aspects. The ultimate aim can be to have a biomarker like other fields, for example, cardiology, echocardiography in cardiology. By that, I can diagnose people with the disease, monitor them, and tell them the prognosis of their disease.
Okay, good, perfect. So
And me, doctor?
uh, let's just kind of, because we have kind of limited amount of time. So let's go. I'm really happy that people are kind of sharing their ideas, and I will definitely read the comments that you are providing in the chat space. We will discuss about those things. I'm really happy that you have started to think about, okay, if you are learning about cognitive neuroscience, if you are learning about cognitive neuroscience methods, and especially when we talk about human brain mapping methods, how human brain mapping methods are going to be helpful, how human brain mapping methods are going to reshape the future of treatments for psychiatric disorders. As you have mentioned, we definitely can use human brain mapping methods to diagnose, to see what are the changes that are happening inside the brain. But it is not just about kind of diagnosis. We can also generate new lines of interventions using the new ways of human brain mapping methods that we have. Specifically, I'm going to discuss about one granting opportunity that has been posted just a few days ago by National Institute of Drug Abuse in US. It is called Device-Based Treatment for Substance Use Disorder. And the grant is framed in a kind of framework for grant application that is called UG3, UH3 grants. And there are different types of grants in National Institute of Health in US. This one is a specific type of grant. So it's just, it has its own structure and it has its own kind of framework for the proposal. The timing is specific for that UG3, UH3. I'm not going to discuss about UG3, UH3 grant kind of model, but I'm going to discuss about how they are thinking about kind of using brain mapping methods to develop new treatments. And if you read the kind of request for proposal that they are posting, and they have recently posted on their website, so you can see the details. So let me just kind of open my browser and just bring that up. Let me just, so that is, if you search for that, you can find the details about the grant application. There are some kind of formalities on the top. You are not supposed to read those kind of detailed formalities. But from section 1, starting to discuss about the background and then research objectives and how things are going to be happening. So the idea is some of these brain mapping methods are not only for recording what is happening inside the brain, we can also modulate what is happening inside the brain. And we call them neuromodulatory human brain mapping methods. And with combining those neuromodulatory and neuromonitoring methodologies together, we can measure, we can stimulate, we can modulate, and we can measure again if we have changed what is happening inside the brain. Okay, so that's a really important concept in terms of, it's not just about measurement, it's also about measurement, intervention, remeasurement. So we can see what is really happening in the brain when we do a specific intervention that is targeting one specific neural target. So when we talk about these interventions, we need to have a neural target, okay? And then we need to show that neural target is engaged by that intervention. And how do you measure that? How do you measure that the neural target engagement has already happened? You basically do that with doing brain mapping before and after, okay? And you use different methods for that. As an example, if you just search for fMRI here, so if I just search for fMRI here, okay, so I will see that there are different occasions in this grant application that they are talking about fMRI. They talk about EEG, they talk about PET, they talk about MRS. So these are the human brain mapping methods that we are going to discuss about today. But we are also going to discuss about different things that are doing neuromodulatory interventions. And they are still considered as human brain mapping methods. So when you go to human brain mapping congresses, it is not just about fMRI. We also talk about how brain stimulation could give us information about brain, because interventional methods are also considered as human brain mapping methods. Okay, so we have some monitoring brain mapping methods and we have some interventional brain mapping methods, and most of the time we just combine them together to be able to design what they call a device-based treatment for, here we are discussing about substance use disorder. There are grant applications for depression, anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder. So people are investing on using these human brain mapping methods, not only to study the brain and understand what is happening in the brain, but also providing new treatments. Okay, and for this specific grant application, if you apply for that, you will receive $1 million for the first 2 years to show that you have a pipeline to engage the neural target. So you need to, in your proposal, you need to say, okay, this is my neural target. I'm going to target executive control network. And then this is my intervention, so I'm going to use this specific intervention. In the first 2 years, you're supposed to provide evidence that the intervention is engaging the target. Okay, and then if you show that you have been successful in engaging the target, then in the next phase, the first phase is called UG3, and then in the next phase you will have 3 years to show that, okay, if I do this intervention in 3 years, I can show that this intervention and this neural target engagement is going to be helpful for the patients. So that is the general idea that we have in using these sort of kind of grant applications. It's really important before even starting to discuss about all these methods to think about, okay, these methods are being used in the daily kind of research that we do to develop new treatments for different psychiatric or neurological disorders. Okay, and I will discuss about how we use these kind of different ideas that we discussed from last session. We discussed about frontoparietal synchronization, and we try to target executive control network in the frontoparietal synchronization to be able to make the neural target engagement, and also show that, okay, if we do this neural target engagement, we have higher level of control, and if we have higher level of control, then we can show that people who have high level of control in their daily life, they will have less amount of drugs they would use less amount of drugs in their daily life. So that's going to be reflected at the end of the day in their behavior and in their clinical outcomes. So that is another challenge to kind of establish during this something like 5 years grant. And the next 3 years of the grant, there is no limitation for the amount of money that you can kind of ask for. It depends on your research kind of project and what that specific research project would need to bring that intervention to the clinical world. Okay, that is the end of the first part.